Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Friends of the Farm lecture series. My name is Candace Hawes, and I want to thank all of our viewers and customers from the pharmacy, the pottery, and the Naturally Healing Center, as well as all of our friends joining us from around the world. Please make sure to hit subscribe so you get notified when we post future cannabis content. Today's webinar is our annual episode honoring a woman of cannabis, and I'm pleased to be joined by Dale Sky Jones. Oaksterdam University is the most famous of all cannabis educational institutions. It's an educational pillar of our community and has trained many of our leaders. I'm honored to have Dale with us, the Executive Chancellor, as our guest. She's been a dedicated mother, advocate, educator, and a leader of the cannabis space since 2007 and has changed the course of history and helped many people start their own careers and affect change. I'm so excited to have her with us today and share some amazing insight, stories, and inspiration with us. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dale.
Candace, it is a pleasure to be here and with all of you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. We were just talking before the webinar and like sharing some stories. We both are actually Orange County girls. We met a long time ago, like more than 15 years ago. So it's really cool because we actually our career started and we had a lot of the same stories, knew a lot of the same people. So we've seen a lot of the same things and seen the industry change. So it's really cool, really full circle to have, you back here and to be talking about, all the same things. So it's really cool to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Indeed. It was not the bastion of friendliness for cannabis in Orange County in 2007. People are like, wait, why did you go there for this? That does not make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of things. We've seen, the ups and downs of the cannabis industry. And so it's just amazing to have that perspective and to have like a kindred spirit like you. And so I'm really excited to like honor you today and, for Women's History Month, because I really think, that you're one of those women that everybody should know about because you've seen it all and you've been able to, raise a family and you've been able to really affect change. And people really don't know like all that you've done because you are so humble. You really don't speak about it and like how much you've really given to the industry. And so that's why I really like, as Stephen always says, give you your flowers. I love that term that he uses, but I want to give you your flowers and like bring light to you and to Oaksterdam University as well, because I can't even say how many people that I've talked to in the industry and that their roots come from Oaksterdam, and how important a role that you guys play and you play as a woman and as a person too in this industry. And so I wanted to use this as an opportunity for you to share your story and to talk about the story as well of Oaksterdam, because your guys' stories are intertwined. So if you wouldn't mind, I think this would be like kind of a good time to like kind of start at the beginning. So these are some of the wonderful accomplishments and the things that you are doing personally or presently, if you don't mind, maybe kind of like if you want to maybe state them and then we can kind of start at the beginning.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. You're going to get me all right off the top there. Yeah, it has been. And I would like to actually start there because I think that's what I'm most proud of is the alum. It's no secret. They are our success. And it has been probably the most, not probably, aside from raising my children, the most rewarding thing I've done in life is to hear the stories come back to me of how folks' time at Oaksterdam has changed themselves, their family, sometimes saved lives, sometimes saved businesses, but that it has impacted not just them, but that they have impacted their communities. And it is our alum that have changed the world from their neck of the woods. And it's that culmination, the symphony of an awful lot of people just pushing in that same direction that we are as far as we are today. And so thank you. If any alumni, let me hear from you in the chat. It's you that helped us change this much, this far, this fast. And yeah, so these days I'm still working on cannabis policy reform. I work with a couple of different national groups, including several, across the aisles. And I'm saying that both directions because there seems to be multiple aisles these days. And it's, this is an issue that has always brought people together. Not only does sickness, illness, wellness across, all ideological barriers, whether it's your child, yourself, your neighbor. It was often tragedy that brought people into cannabis, and now it's policy, and there's certainly a profit motive there. And part of what I still try to do is tie together how doing the right thing is also good for your bottom line, and that we really do agree on most things. It's how to get there, again, try to get folks to swim in the same direction. So, yeah, a lot of different groups to do that with. We have a lot of lobby days coming up this spring, and if you think about it, it's Oaksterdam has taught people about the civics class that you slept through, or skipped, or didn't ever get in the first place, it turns out, in curricula these days. Things like jury duty is also part of your superpower. It's jury immunity, that if you get called to a case that's involving a marijuana charge, that you're not just there to judge the person of what they may or may not have done, but what if cannabis isn't a crime? That's also your power as a citizen to judge the law that brought them there, that you can hang that jury and nothing bad will happen to you. That's all, it's your vote. And how you use your power, not just with your vote, but who you bring, how you advocate for yourself and your business, not just for the president, but importantly, your city council. That's who's going to decide whether or not, local control happens for your neck of the woods as well. So it's, all these different places and spaces. And we're blessed, as you see at the bottom, to work now on multiple social equity programs. And yes, I will actually be getting on an airplane and going to first Connecticut at the beginning of April for an information session to kick off finally workforce development. We have a state that is investing in their workforce, as well as entrepreneurship and boot camps and accelerator programs. And then I'll be driving down to New Jersey and doing a workshop for the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. And the EDA has 48 amazing participants who are going through the process of getting their doors open, getting annual licensure. And so we're about a quarter of the way through a technical assistance program for recipients of the NJEDA grant. So there's just a lot going on, and I'm blessed to be doing the work. I didn't understand it early on, what I was working towards, but I get these hits of hope every single day when I watch policymakers make the right decisions. I also, you should hear the curse words fly out of my mouth when they get it wrong. I mean, it also can be like, crush. Am I allowed to curse, Candace?
Yes, we're on the internet. It's fine.
I get a little hot sometimes, but it can be really frustrating, but it can also be very inspiring to see our public dollars and public servants truly working towards what we've all been fighting towards. And the stuff we used to say, Candace, is flying out their mouth. It's like, what? So we're getting there.
And what I was going to say about social equity is, like, a lot of governments don't understand what social equity is. So that's great that you guys can help lead them to the correct understanding.
They don't know what cannabis is. Candace, no, we are like, bring it on back, baby. We're talking like way back. Yeah.
So it's nice that they have you to guide them in the right way. And then on that other thought, that the other statement that you said, it's nice to hear them actually advocating for us. Because, like, think going back to 15 years ago, we would have never dreamed that they would be advocating for us and doing our work. It's like, it blows my mind. And people don't really understand that unless they were in our shoes. Like, we would have never dreamed 15 years ago that they would be, arguing for cannabis against, concerned citizens that have, misconceptions about cannabis, and they'd be trying to set them straight. It's like, thank you.
It is mind blowing. The best. So first off, just being able to work with so many folks across the different spectrums in both, local, municipal government, as well as state government, occasionally federal government. that will like dip in and listen, but not officially be there. But it's our PTA has to fundraise for everything extra in our public school, library, art, the dance or music programs, after school programs, all of these different things we have to fundraise for. It's all been cut out of budgets. And we started donating. I got several local cannabis businesses to donate to our auctions. And this last year, I finally came out to, and this last year, our principal comes into the PTA meeting, the board meeting. I'm parliamentarian, and she says, "There's a concerned citizen who's complained about some products that are in the auction, and there's stuff like wine. I mean, everything, massages, like all kinds of different stuff for auction. You're just looking for whatever help you can get for public schools, right?" And I said, "Okay, you don't have to whitewash. It's me. I know. I'll talk to them if you want." And she's like, "I got it, Dale. This is legal. No, I just wanted you to." And she starts laughing. She's like, "I thought you guys would find it funny." And she's like, "This is ridiculous. I'm not going to let him. No, please. Your stuff brings in all kinds of money. And it's not my stuff. It's their stuff." But that's like where I realize I'm the conservative one suddenly, and we've won. Like it's in a lot of these places. What we have to remember, though, is we're on the right side of prohibition in a lot of these places and spaces, and there's still people behind bars or giving birth in shackles. Like we're not done yet, right?
Yep, it's true. So as far as we've come, and things have changed, we're not completely there. It's very, very, very true. It's very true. So as far as we come, we can't forget that the work isn't done. It's very true. Very
well,
true.
And it's the shoulders we stand on, right? And I'm realizing, I think my next slide, you've or one of us, and I can't even believe who found in history this one. But it's also just about like the shoulders we stand on.
Which is your husband. One of those guys is your wonderful husband, Jeff, who is one of the first folks that brought a case to the Supreme Court to help protect the rights of patients.
And you're one of the few people that know that and say it, because he's the quiet crusader that nobody ever hears from. I discovered him looking for education in the industry. Right when I moved out here, I was starting to work with doctors who worked in General Hospital in Los Angeles, and they weren't allowed to talk about cannabis, but they had cancer patients and folks that had limited time to live, and they wanted to just find care, but they weren't allowed to talk about cannabis. And they wound up starting this practice in Orange County to be able to talk to their patients. And so they hired me to be their business manager. And I was trying to figure out, what are the laws? What are the rules? And I reached out to my fellow Dale Geringer, and spoke with him for a while. And he gave me a phone number, and said, you should talk to the Patient ID Center. They do education. They used to be known as the Oakland Cannabis Buyers Cooperative, the OCBC. Jeff Jones just opened an LA office, gave me his number. And I found these two little 5x7 note cards not that long ago with a bunch of notes. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have the notes of the day I met my husband. I met him at Bruce Margolin's. He threw a pre-party for a normal conference, where he had all the advocates. This is back when all the advocates could fit in one room. That was, Jeff spent the whole night talking to the doctor that I work with, who, I don't know if I mentioned this, is also a drop dead gorgeous blonde, for what it's worth. So most of the people there thought she was my date, not the person that I worked with. And so it was, am I blushing yet? Good times. You also, that picture is pre-high school graduation.
I love that picture. It's beautiful.
I'm trying to figure out where y'all found it. It's Yeah, I was a little mass media. My mom was in radio and a little bit of television, mostly radio. She's on the air for like 25, 27 years. She did morning drive. So she was like out the door before I even woke up in the morning. And so I did a bunch of, I had a bunch of classes in high school, and that photo was taken early 90s, baby. Oh, yeah. Anyway. And then the beautiful mural. Yeah, you found.
And so it was like after you met Jeff, it was like you guys were just like inseparable. Your missions were, one. And after that, you started working with. Would you say you started working with Oaksterdam University, and you guys opened a facility in Los Angeles, right? Oaksterdam University had a training facility for a while in Los Angeles, and you guys were training people in the Bay Area and in Southern California for a time.
Yeah, exactly. So this was the summer of 2007 when I'm on the phone talking to Jeff, talking to different folks, and trying to just understand the lay of the land. And I realize now I was the fly on the wall while he and Jeff were talking about forming the school, Oaksterdam. And I'm like, do it, please. We need something. I had been a small business owner and a corporate trainer. So I had done both, troubleshooting new store openings, and then had done it for myself with a restaurant. And then spent quite a bit of time in retail as the general manager and district manager. So I knew the value of training, and I kept looking for it. And what existed at the time was what Jeff was teaching folks of how to safely grow your own cannabis, how to safely transport, thanks to Pebbles Trippet. We would cite certain California law here and there. And the classes, as soon as the first classes on November 10th in Oakland happened, Jeff was up there for that. And he's like, we can do that in LA at the campus. Well, it became the campus at the office that he had opened to do ID cards, patient ID cards, which he had been doing after he got shut down by the Fed for distribution of medical cannabis. They said, no. That was our first raid. Yeah, that was the Clinton administration. Fun fact. And we wound up with doing the school and starting to teach. I immediately just started trying to replace myself with the doctors. Some of you may know that, especially back then, there were roving. So the sheriff's offices of the 3 counties in Southern California had formed these roving task forces where they would go in and try to bust doctors, because they saw doctors as the bottle. If we can throttle the doctors, then there will be no patients. If there's no patients, there's no legal cannabis. So it was they were going for the doctors, and the doctors that I worked for were already, did we say Orange County? They were already conservative.
Yep.
The Dr. Lee that worked for us, he would say no half the time anyway. Like he like, you got to try melatonin first. Like so you had to come in with serious medical issues to be able to get a recommendation from the doctors that I worked for. They were not like the dial-a-doc concept. They were much harder to get recommendations from. And what that
medical did records in hand,
all of it. Yep. And we kept, apparently, I'm not going to say accidentally, but we kept the task forces out for months. And I wound up getting a patient come in, and he said, it was at the end, we were writing his recommendation. He's like, I just want to let you know that my brother is a sheriff. He's been trying to get in here. And he tells me this whole story about he sent me in because I have a real back problem to check you out. And I'm going to tell him that you all are legit and that you're doing it right. And blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wait, what? It was like my first palms are sweaty kind of heart thumping moment of, wow, it's that close. And I could not work for Oaksterdam and work for the doctors at the same time, because that would have been collusion and potentially aiding and abetting a felony, because Richard Lee, who started Oaksterdam University, had a dispensary, and all that was illegal as far as and doctors, that's exactly what they were trying to get doctors to do, is tell you where to find the medicine, or God forbid, give it to them themselves, and
Yeah.
bam, they lost their.
Used to have to be like, I don't know. I don't know where you can get it.
Yeah, it's magic.
Mhm.
It's yes. We couldn't have any literature in the doctor's office of where to find it. We had to be really careful. We had to teach patients how to fend for themselves, and that's why Oaksterdam was so crucial.
That's amazing. Yeah, it really was tough and dicey times back then. A lot of activists and advocates like yourself, like you said, you had to be so careful and walk these lines. Like, what can we do? What can we not do? I remember those times, and feeling like I could be like arrested at any point. Like not planning like vacations out for like at the end of the year because you really just never knew. And like even like women back then were afraid to have families because they didn't really know like whether it was safe to have children, and I know like there's women activists that say to me even like you're so lucky because you can be a woman and have a family nowadays and be in the cannabis industry. That's not something that I as a woman felt afforded the right to do and the safety to do. So yeah, it was a very scary time back then, and for doctors, and for just people and women activists in general. So yeah, it was a very courageous thing to do to, work in the work with the doctors and even to start an educational institution like Oaksterdam and to help provide people the tools to be able to provide for their own medicine because people didn't really have the resources like we do now with the dispensaries. Now it's very easy for patients to find high quality lab tested cannabis with the variety of cannabinoids that they need to treat their conditions. Back then, we didn't have all these luxuries. So you guys provided a very, very, very important service back then. So that's amazing what you guys did in the very, very early days of cannabis.
Well, and I didn't have anything to lose when I first started, and even when the Prop 19 campaign first started, we had our first. So I was pregnant through that campaign, and that's when it did start to get scary. First around just being pregnant in the middle of a statewide campaign in the largest state in the United States. Like we went for it. Colorado is the size of our Bay Area, and so it was a massive undertaking, and I didn't even understand what we were. If I knew then what I know now, I never would have agreed to any of it. But it was Jeff and I actually, and I'm going to get like real open here because this is for women and about women, and I just like there's a whole documentary, and I feel like it tells this amazing story, the arc of history, but it also doesn't tell a whole part of the story that even the editors are like, yeah, no one can deal with that much, so we can't have all that in there. So Jeff and I actually miscarried the first time, the first child that we had, and it was like part of why I threw myself headlong into the campaign of just like F it. It doesn't matter. And I realize now that there's no way I would have. We wound up becoming pregnant again sooner than I even expected. But by then the campaign was well underway, and it was all about like, how can I position my jacket to hide that I'm pregnant so that me being pregnant isn't the story. I was terrified that both they would go after me after the baby was born, or God forbid before. Like, just all of it was all of the bad things that could have happened going through your head of making me the example of what not to do.
Those
Was
are no fears.
right. Yes. Yeah.
Completely.
You could say paranoia or just a healthy concern for the truth. And yes, there's so many women that have had their children taken, and for the sake of the plant in the closet, that it's why parental rights and decriminalization is so crucial while legalization policies are being discussed, because we're still taking children here in California. Like, we're not done. We're still breaking up families. It's still a major cause for immigration, deportation. There's just a lot still wrong with our policies, and it's easy, especially here. Yeah, I live in Oakland. It's the bastion of I can smoke a joint walking down the street, and if anything, I'm going to get a high five from a cop. It's it's ending the stop and frisk policies in New York was something that it's how do we decrim? And that's honestly what Prop 19 wound up doing, was the most important decriminalization measure before or since that year. Schwarzenegger. So we're almost winning, right? Picture it. It's 2010. It's the summertime, and Prop 19 is up 50, 54, 56. It was up. And all of a sudden, like, hellfire damnation is raining on our souls with October surprises. We've got every DEA living drug czar comes to California and says, you're going to rot and fall off into the sea. You're going to lose all your federal funding. We're not, like, colleges, universities, all these bad things are going to happen in California if you legalize. And at the same time, Governor Schwarzenegger, who had vetoed the same bill 4 times, decided that October to sign this decrim bill.
Yeah.
And it dropped arrests in California the very next year. Like 2 months later, it started. It went into effect in January 1. 87%, Candace. 87% drop in arrests. That's almost 9 out of 10 people in California who didn't go to jail that day.
And change it to an infraction.
It was so life-changing for so many people. And still the racial disparity exists. It's even harder to track now, but to just take the teeth out of the criminality in California on such a tremendous level. And it's just a reminder, wherever you are, to, yes, legalize, but don't just move the target to the 20-year-olds. You have to decriminalize across the board, because that's where the next enforcement goes. If you don't direct the enforcement and the budget, and that takes me to the budget. Like, show me what you care about. Show me your budget. The money can't just go back to the general fund, back into enforcement. It's got to go in back to the communities that were hit hardest, back to education. Those things that have the greatest impact on flipping the script, the failures of the drug war. And now that's called social equity. Who knew?
And so when Governor Schwarzenegger passed this bill to change the sentencing to the infraction, he did that to undercut the campaign, though. To say you don't need to vote for this bill, or to vote.
Don't legalize California, just criminalize
for you. So it's unnecessary to change this law, because I pretty much took away the criminal penalty so that we no longer need this drastic change, which was really kind of rotten of him, because we had this great momentum that would have done these wonderful things and done all these made these greater changes that you mentioned, and took the steam out of it, which was really, and it was very much a strategical play. Like you said, like, we had all these drug enforcement agents coming together, like, what can we do maybe to take the power and the steam out of this? And Prop 19, I really feel, was like the last campaign where the cannabis community came together and really participated as a whole and had input. And that's what I really appreciated, is that you guys went around and you met with all the different groups and, like, let's come together as a consensus, like, what is right for everybody. And then CCPR as well was that way too, where it was like everybody coming together to work together. Prop 64 was not that way. It was like, we're going to do this within lobbyists. We don't even really want anybody to be part of it. There was a couple people, like our good, wonderful friend, Lauren Vasquez, who's one of your guys' instructors.
She's our faculty chair. I love and trust Lauren. And listen, I voted yes with my, tears, and because it incremental change, right?
Yeah. And it removes some stigma, and we've moved forward, but it's not perfect. You can't hold back progress for perfection. But, it did not include the community like your guys' Prop 19 and like CCPR. But I really appreciated that about what you guys did. So
thank you.
That was horrible what he did, and I did not appreciate that very much. So
I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you remember back in the day that Richard also did a lot of listening sessions and a lot of versions. Folks seem to have missed that once we got on the ballot. There was, getting a taste of how disinformation can affect decision making. I feel like it was almost like I took a micro dose of what became our future in American politics back in 2010, and it's the juxtaposition is really interesting and sometimes shocking. Like you start to wonder, did I take the red pill or the blue pill? Like, woo, what reality did I choose? And yeah, it turns out, and that picture, so the picture on that bottom right of that round table is everyone coming together after Prop 19 lost, to try to figure out what's next. And me with a bullhorn is, well, that's after the second raid. So that was the Obama administration, if you're counting. And that's when I realized that I'm not paranoid. It is a healthy concern for the truth. And when we suffered our 4-agency federal raid, they did threaten Richard and with continuing criminal enterprise, and said, we're going to go arrest Jeff and Dale as well. And we had a 1-year-old at the time. So what you don't see right under the bullhorn is my 1-year-old in a stroller right at my hip, usually strapped on. But yeah. The other thing that we did in that time was we tried to work with Hollywood, not in the way people think, because we couldn't get anybody to come out for us out loud back then. Their managers would talk them out of it even if they agreed. But and the picture in the middle is the producers of Friends, fun fact, with Salwa Ibrahim, another lady that many of you probably know, and Maurizio, he was our campaign manager. And the conversation that we tried to have with Hollywood at the time, we threw an event at Bill Maher's house.
Yep,
was
with you.
was to just have cannabis as part of the conversation and have nothing happen. Like, make it normal. Don't be weird. It doesn't have to be the crux of everybody's problems. Introduce it like you would wine or beer in any other episode, and just let's normalize, because we had to destigmatize. And during the Prop 19 campaign, what was on the air was Walter White burying barrels of cash in the backyard and having, apparently the entire DEA was also watching Breaking Bad. And then the other program that was really very popular right then was HBO's Weeds. And that's right when her teenage son is murdering a drug dealer down in Mexico, and they're building tunnels under to San Diego to sell illicit cannabis. And it's like, good Lord, hey, voters, vote yes on Prop 19. You fast forward to the 2016 initiative, and in Weeds, she just sold her 40 some odd cafes to Starbucks. And, weed is ubiquitous. And it's just like, come on. Yes. So fast forwarding, let's see, where are we? We've got some fun photos we pulled together. Yes. So that's the little Prop 19 baby, little Jackson Jones up in the top.
He's going to grow up and be president and save the world.
Him, or I don't know, it could be him. It could be his brother, Jesse Jones, who's going to take over the world. And I'm just trying to teach him to use his powers for good and not evil. Yeah, the one in the belly that's getting kissed, and the little blonde one to the right, Jesse, he was born on November 10th. Those of you paying attention.
I wrote that date down. That was the date you guys opened Oaksterdam University.
And I didn't even figure this out until 2 years ago, when the city of Oakland gave us a day named after us. And they're like, well, what was the first day that you taught classes in Oakland? And I had to go research. I had to call Chris Conrad and figure, like, what, I don't know. It was sometime in, we always just said November. I don't remember what day in November. November 10th. Holy crap. I had a baby on that day. Are you kidding me? So yes, Jesse has a day named on
That's
his.
pretty cool.
And then, yeah, in 2016 is when we discovered we were pregnant with the third. And Quinn was born in 2017, the mighty Quinn. We named after my grandmother and my mom, the last of the Quinn women. So, yeah, we made it.
Yeah, those are going to be some amazing children growing up, with you and Jeff's intelligence and your guys's, humbleness and your courageousness. I mean, I cannot wait to see what your guys's children are going to be like, and being surrounded with all of your guys's friends too, and all the lessons they can learn from all you guys. It's just going to be like amazing.
How are they going, like, legit, Candace? How are they going to rebel is what I want to know.
I guess they can only go the other way. They can only just be straight. I remember like somebody had asked Dale Garinger too, like if his daughter was interested in cannabis, and he said that she has no interest whatsoever. Like we've taken all
no children, no children of any reformers that I know. There's a few that have gotten interested in the policy, but none of them smoke cannabis. It is amazing. Yes. A very good friend of ours, their son wants to be a federal prosecutor, and they're like, do you know who birthed you? Like, really?
Like, I'm an expert out of the womb.
I got to rebel, Mom. That's what it is. Yeah. True story.
So speaking of, women and like your daughter and everything, for, in spite of, and also, in honor of Women's History Month, what guidance would you have for like other women who want to enter the cannabis industry, knowing everything that we know, being in the cannabis industry for all these years, working in Oaksterdam with so many other women that want to enter? What would you say?
Yeah, first, like, this is hard. And, I often hear, the side of things where, especially early on, people are like, well, I saw you do it and I realized I could do it too. And that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, though, you see me do it, you don't see me like crying in the shower when nobody's looking. You don't see, like the hair isn't always, it sometimes the mascara is and the cursing is, like, it be kind to you first and foremost, and acknowledge how fucking hard it is to be a working woman in this space. If you are also a mother or mothering someone, a mother figure, it's hard. And all of the ills of former industries, the different spaces and places that I've been before I was in cannabis, all that bad behavior, those folks crossed into this industry too. It's really about people and the likelihood of a woman being invested in, even though women have better outcomes. It's just facts, people. Like, I'm not making shit up here. Having women in leadership, having women throughout your team, having women of color, women of different backgrounds and ethnicities and ages and socioeconomic backgrounds benefits your company, especially if they're in positions that affect, like, put some put some women on your buying team.
Yeah.
Because it's women who are buying from you.
Yep.
And their gaze is different. What they're looking for is different, and they buy for men oftentimes. So it's, first just acknowledging, the whole time that I was pregnant, I have cyclic vomiting syndrome, which is like hyperemesis gravidarum, but also when you're not pregnant. And pregnancy was a trigger for me. So I'm going through that whole campaign with, and I still, like, 3 feet away, I have an airplane barf bag. How many interviews that I did where I would just throw up and then wipe off and then go right back to where I was going. Or I would have the camera up here because I couldn't afford childcare after the raid. And I would be nursing down here because that's the only way to keep a baby quiet when you're trying to talk to the news.
True. Yeah, and you'd be like, let's not feed him until I need to go on air, because then I know he's going to be nursing, he'll be quiet, and then he'll pass out afterwards. Like, you learn the mommy tricks.
Yeah, you really, really do. And so, like, trust yourself, trust your instincts and be kind. Like, if you are that bitch in your head, if you're not going to let your friend talk to you or themselves that way, like if you would stop somebody else from saying that, if you wouldn't let your child say that to a stranger, why are you talking that way to you in your head? And I'm guilty of this. And so I can recognize it and understand that we are often the hardest on ourselves. We do the most caregiving. We're often the default parent. We are the caregiver in other people's lives. And God forbid we ask for help. And so just, having the ability to just acknowledge that, embrace your good trouble, which I'm just now starting to do at 48 years old. Finally, I swear to God, Candace, I was the youngest. I was too young. I was too young. Now I'm old. Now I'm too old. Now I can't do it. And I'm like, wait a minute. What the fuck just happened? Wait, when was I just right? I don't know. Damn it. What? And the other thing is just surrounding yourself with, and I had a hard time with this at first. I was always great at surrounding myself with smart people and learning from them, but not always great people, like good people that cared about my outcomes. And so while you're building, if you're building that team for your business, don't forget to have like Team Candace on the side.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 people that just care. Did you eat? Are you sleeping? Are you okay? Because it's that, like, put the mask on yourself before you can save someone else.
Yeah.
You need that. Is someone looking out for you? And my someone
somebody asked me yesterday.
yeah. And you're blessed to have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed to have one. Mine is my husband, and fortunately, to a certain degree now, my children, like, they're little empaths.
Yeah.
But it could be your neighbor. I adopted the woman across the street, and she'll never have grandkids. Her son was killed, gun violence here in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have, Jeff lost his parents early. My parents are in Florida, so they might as well. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to make a Florida joke, but almost. But it's hard because we don't have any help. We don't have any grandparents. So we made our family, and we all get to have that together. And yeah, we adopted each other, and we didn't know each other 15 years ago, and we didn't know how much we needed each other. Now that it is family. So yes, be kind, trust your instincts, and finally be gritty. It's not that, like, I'm inspired all the time. And Oaksterdam, after 17 years, we're coming up on April 2nd. It's going to be, what year is this? 2024? 12 years since the federal raid, 12 years since I took over the school. It's kind of mind boggling. Richard ran the school for 5 years. I worked for him. And now I've had the school for 12. It's like, whoa, that's holy shit.
Yeah.
But it's not because I was inspired every day. There's lots of days that, it's hard as hell and you're not inspired, but it's what you do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And getting out of bed and doing the things that you have to do anyway, doing it early, doing it often, like, it's that fortitude, that grit, that perseverance, that tenacity. That is what is going to get you to where you need to be. And where is that? That's for you to decide. But what I did was I fell in love with the problem, because, like, there is no one solution. There's no magic or silver bullets. And in your business or in the goals that you're trying to accomplish in life, don't fall in love with your solution, because your solution is going to become stale quick. It was a great solution in that moment for that person in that time. But how are you going to stay nimble? How are you going to meet the needs of what people need tomorrow, not yesterday? Skate to where the puck is going to be, as Gretzky would say. So it's also a bit of that, I think, too. It is definitely the grit on the days that you're sick as hell, that you show up. You must be present to win. Yep. Days like today, you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then
make it work. And women are really good at that.
Until you make it. And yes. My mom used to say that, and it turns out now there's all this science behind it. If you act it out, suddenly you'll feel it, and then the endorphins kick in, and then you are it. And it's like, holy shit, have I been living my life this way for 20 years? Am I that person? What? Yeah.
And the sign, it's all true though. Those were such great words of inspiration. I think that what you said is really, really great advice for women. And it's all really true. I think that those are some things that I've had really smart women in the industry tell me as well. And so those are really, really wise words of inspiration for women. So thank you so much for sharing those. Um, are there some other classes too that you would like to share that you think that would be great
Yes.
paths for women to take as well if they wanted to come to Oaksterdam and also broaden their career and their learning paths to move forward with their cannabis careers?
I appreciate you asking, Candace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, and I think as when you're trying to figure out not just like falling in love with the problem, because serious cannabis is a problem, whether you're trying to be in business in cannabis, you're trying to find safe access, like falling in love with the problem and then figuring out how to fix it, right? And so these are what our classes set you up to do. And we have the business of cannabis, which is really the crown jewel. No matter what you're trying to do, you have to
Mm-hmm.
understand what this is anyway, how the federal and state laws interplay, not just what cannabis is and isn't, and regulatory issues, but your place in space. I often find people coming into Oaksterdam, they're like, well, this is what I should be doing. Well, get that should off your shoulder. What do you love? What do you want to be doing? What are you already good at? What reinvent yourself? You think
Yeah.
I grew up saying I want to run a cannabis college? Not once did that fly out of my mouth as a child. It wasn't invented yet. So it's you do you, boo, and there's a place for you with what you love here. We need it, and
To
sometimes
be
you have to
better at
start
it.
entry level, right? I truly. And there's also, of course, we had so much demand for horticulture. They're like, yeah, business, that's great, but can I get hort, and more hort, please? So yes, you can. And that's, I think, also a good, even if you're not interested in working in the industry, we have a home grow program. And what's interesting is home growers are actually the best spenders at dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact. So dispensary lobbyists, stop trying to poop on home grow. They're your best customers. I mean, I've tried to grow tomatoes, and that's why I buy them at the supermarket. And I respect the tomato growers because I don't want to do that. It's hard. I can, even when I actually pop off a crop, I get like my 3 to 5, and then I'm still buying tomatoes the rest of the time. And ooh, look, oh, those are a heirloom. Oh, I'm willing to try these little, what are those over here? I'm willing to spend more, try more, buy more at the same time because I love tomatoes.
Yep.
Cannabis is no different. So it's fun to learn how to grow your own and understand what it is and how it works. And gosh, it's just a plant. It's not going to jump out of the pot and throttle your children.
No.
It won't even get them high if they eat it right from the branch.
No.
You've got to like cure it properly first. We'll teach you how to do that too. But whatever direction you're trying to go into, whether it's entry level or C-suite, we definitely have something. And we're also working hard on workforce development. We have several free programs as well. So like the exit from opiates and pain, utilizing cannabis is a free program. We have a free advocacy program. So you can just, go have that conversation with your Aunt Betty and talk about it. Oh yes, by all means. No, show us the women, because these are so many of the subject matter experts that bring these programs to life. And Angela Baca, who has worked for us now for a couple of years, worked with me on several projects, including one we're about to talk about, is now our director of academics. Natalie Darvis has been with us for over a decade. Maha Hawk for almost a decade. Tiffany Watkins, this woman, she's only 29 years old, but she's been in the industry for 30, if you can believe it. She is a quadruple threat with branding and marketing. She's also our impact chair and is helping several of the people that you see, including Lauren Vasquez, who is our chair. We talked about her earlier, Mutual Admiration Society on Lauren. And several of these amazing ladies are working right now on the New Jersey Economic Development Authority program. So this is just a small little spattering. I thought about, like, could I do a slide with all the women? But who didn't have the time. There's so many.
Are you guys still offering in-person classes too? If somebody wanted to immerse themselves and do like a, and how long are your in-person classes nowadays?
So we're on demand online. So we're in your living room now. We do ask if you come to the live programs that you do wear pants, but otherwise you can whatever you want in the middle of the night. You can get self-paced programs. We do have live cohort-based programs as well that are on Zoom, just like this, where you're interactive. It's not a webinar; it's a class that's wraparound. The in-person stuff we're doing right now is still under contract, so we'll do things for businesses, for government, for universities. We don't have just a campus anymore. We did suffer a fire the same week as the shutdown for COVID-19. Someone set fire to a trash can in the alley near our building, and the whole art installation went up like a sock, and it caught fire on the roof. And go Oakland Fire Department, I love you, thank you. They cut a hole in the roof, jumped in, and put the fire out in the office. It was and so, yes, you don't have to fly to Oakland anymore to get Oaksterdam. We will come to you.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, a lot of people like virtual because you can do it around your schedule. You can do it after work. And like you said, if you have a big enough group anyways, it's nice because Oaksterdam will come to you.
Exactly. On demand. Yeah, it is a better way. It was more expensive to come to Oakland than to take our classes. It was just freaking hard.
For the travel and the lodging and everything anyway.
Single parents, I don't even know how you would handle that with little ones. I wouldn't be able to go to Oaksterdam if I didn't run Oaksterdam. So it's, we try to make it as easy peasy as possible. And we've also taken some of these big giant programs, sliced them and diced them, and made them very easy to access, low cost, like I said, oftentimes free. And we do things like group discounts. We still do a lot of scholarships. So, Oaksterdam has always been a social model versus a profit model. And you'll see, well, why is that program thousands of dollars and there's hundreds of dollars? Because we want the most amount of people to get the best education possible. We operate as a not-for-profit. I'm not trying to extract your money. You don't have to pay $30,000 for a bus tour. Come pay $900 and learn everything you need to know and hone your bullshit detector so you don't fall for jackass trying to charge you $30,000. Yeah.
And see how many people that are actually operating business in the cannabis industry came from Oaksterdam University. In fact, even the Pharmacy Berkeley, part of, pharmacy here, they were students of Oaksterdam University. Mama Sue and her family, Jamal and Kiki, they are all proud alumni of Oaksterdam University. So,
true story, Mama Sue. And I brought Mama Sue to Congress with me to help with doing briefings for the Senate and the House. Mama Sue got into cannabis because her son called her about 2 days into his Oaksterdam program and said, Mama, I'm going in to cannabis. I'm at Oaksterdam. And she got on a plane and flew to California to save his soul. Candace, she was a Catholic school principal and freaked out that her son was going to hell. And then she came out and he just kept talking to her. Mama, you got to understand, I'm helping people. These are patients. This is good. Please, please, please. And he just kept educating her. And now she's the first Black woman to own a dispensary in Berkeley. Like, oh, Mama Sue. Yeah.
And then now I've got her going all over town talking to seniors with me, and she's the trusted face of cannabis. And I've got her into
president of her fan club.
Bars and teachers.
It is. And that's what's so inspiring is like, it's the folks that we touch and then just watching what they do with it. That's my hit of hope. Yeah.
I mean, how the world would be different without us and you, especially Dale, like
them, all of you.
What would the world be like? I don't even know. I can't even say. And without all of these amazing women on the screen, like, I don't even know what would happen.
It's each and every one of us. We stand on each other's shoulders. And that's what I finally realized too, of just coming to that camaraderie, that trust. I was so often, because I did work so often for years in that, like, climb the corporate ladder mentality. And I was almost always the only woman in the room. It was rare there's another woman. And it was like, if you got to a certain level, you were either a bitch or a slut. Pick one. And that was how you got there. It was rarefied air. And to be able to, like, find the women in cannabis and the professionalism, the open hearts, the willingness to support and do no harm, this, like, no judging, just be you. It's not just the tree hugging, crystal gripping, pot smoking hippie. It's folks like me, the stiletto stoners, the ones that hid it for years, the ones that it wasn't okay and never okay to talk about. It's been hard for me to be a feminist out loud and be comfortable with that, because I was trained for decades, never, like, don't come off like a woman, don't act like a woman, don't be the woman in the room. You'll never be in the club, you'll never get to where you want to go if you act too feminist. And now the ability to engender allies, and it's not just by and for women, but it's being able to connect those policy dots of these different things that we care about. And I didn't expect to be an advocate for cannabis. I was behind the scenes for a while. I was like, just don't put me on camera. That's the last, as long as we don't do that, I'm good. And then suddenly I was the only one that could go on camera. That's a whole nother story. Maybe you'll have me back. It's a little dramatic. But that, at the end of the day, everything's going to be all right, and you can do it, and it is worth it.
Yeah. I loved this. I loved just talking to you and getting all your little, gems and insights out. You've been so amazing. If people want to, like, hear more about your story, they can also watch American Pot Story, right? This is a documentary that you and your husband Jeff were featured in. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and it is available in several film festivals. It is not available on Netflix yet. It is still on the film festival circuit. It's been playing for the past year, and what these filmmakers did, they started following us back during Prop 19, and because of the terrible endings we kept giving them, we lost Prop 19, then we got raided, and then it was just bad. They kept filming, and they accidentally they caught the arc of history, Candace. They caught all our friends, some not even with us anymore. They caught how hard this fight was and why people should care. And now this movie, shockingly, is really flipping good. It's won awards, not just in Oakland, but in, like, Utah. It's good if Utah, like, did a pot flick. But now it's won at Santa Barbara. It's won all these awards all over the country, and it is changing hearts and minds. And so hopefully it's just sign up for our newsletters. I know that it is playing in Massachusetts in April. It is playing in Las Vegas in April, and it is playing at the Mendocino Film Festival on May 31st. And I will definitely be at that one. So hopefully I will see you there as well, Candace.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And otherwise, I think I already touched on a couple of these. Oaksterdam's just all over the country right now. And I want to make sure that I respect everybody's evening too on just where to find more information on all of this at oaksterdamuniversity.com. And you can catch us in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, so you can find Dale and Oaksterdam University at some of those events.
Or have it delivered by Amazon. And this is the last thing that we always hear for years still. There's just no training. Bud tenders aren't trained. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Come on. There's so much training for bud tenders. Let me tell you about my bud tender training. But you know what? Be your own bud tender. Like, so this bad boy right here, or bad girl, bad
girl.
Where are we? But it's also on Kindle, and I'll tell you, some of the charts and graphs in here are beautiful. You can zoom in and just understand, what is that anyway? How is it derived? What should I call it? What's the right terminology? How's it going to hit me? What's best for Aunt Betty? because a lot of this is just really having the experience that you're looking for and understanding the product. And it shouldn't be quite so hit and miss. We designed it to be for professional bud tenders, for trainers to use, but you can train yourself, right? Lifelong learner. The book is just as much for consumers to be their own bud tender. So I
I love
strongly
that.
recommend you check it out. Yeah, it's only $29.99, and it's got this crazy soft like cover that makes me just want to pet it. All right.
I love that. I think every dispensary should have one of those, at least one of them available, like in the break room for them to like thumb through when they're, eating their snacks or their lunch,
Oh,
like on the floor. And like you said, it's great for people at home too. A great educational guide. I love that. I think
and
that's
for
really impressive.
customers, you
Yeah.
can, if you have iPads at your work, you can just have the digital copy. And when a customer asks a question, you can just flip it around and show them what you're talking about, or have it on the side so that they can figure it out for themselves while you're helping other people
Yeah.
and then come back
That's
to
really
you.
cool. Is
Yeah.
that
So
something new that you guys just did this year, or is that something?
we just published, it's less than a year old. We published on
Oh, like hot off
4/20
the
last
presses.
year. Yep. Yep.
Very cool.
And we keep it all very updated too. And the other one that you see on your screen is really, we designed it originally for writers and journalists, but anyone, marketing, folks that are trying to figure out how to articulate what this is and how to say it, and importantly, what not to say. For instance, we are a responsible industry now, and we don't want to make this sound fun for kids. So maybe we avoid the word recreational when we're referring to
Mhm.
cannabis. Perhaps it's adult use or
Mhm.
medicinal or just simply responsible use.
Mhm.
We don't have to be Joe Camel out there.
I love that. That's amazing. Is that also something that's available for purchase, or is that just something that's available for download? The terminology guide. All right. And then the last thing is that you have a wonderful discount for us as well, correct? All right. I think we might have just lost Dale for just a second here, but it looks like they're also offering
Saw
us.
the QR code. Hi.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. You might have
No
just
worries.
just one little second there. Sorry about that.
I
Um,
wasn't sure if it was you or me, so I slightly kept talking and figured I'd move to the QR code just in case.
yeah, no, it's perfect. Yeah, it was just one little second you dropped off there, but then we're back here on this last slide, and so it's perfect. So it looks like you're going to offer all of the viewers here a nice little discount on some of your classes.
Yes, and at the same time, you can sign up for the newsletter and find out when the movie is going to be near you. We often offer special discounts and special access to certain classes and courses. But for just across the top, anything that you want to check out, you can take 10% off with that QR code and come find us for yourself. And perhaps you'll also find yourself at Oaksterdam.
Yeah, hopefully you do, because I can tell you with all the different classes that you guys offer, there's something for everybody. So definitely come to your guys' website and check it out. Um, like I said, this is one of the longest running, if not the longest running, cannabis educational training institution. I know many, many people that have, started their cannabis business from your guys' training, many satisfied customers, and that you guys have, changed the course of cannabis history. So if you want to support a company that has done good work, that's supported many people, that definitely, support Oaksterdam University. And thank you so much, Dale, for being with us today and for all of the work that you've done for, staying with cannabis through the thick and thin, for being so dedicated, for being the person that you are, for giving so much love to, to the industry and to all those around you, for just being such a wonderful person. I really appreciate you. And again, like, take you from Stephen, I want to give you your flowers. You're such a
Thank
wonderful
you.
person. And, thank you everybody for being with us too. And,
Yes.
sharing this time with us and, learning about Dale and about Oaksterdam University. And, please share all this information and tell other people as well. If they want to learn about cannabis, go to Oaksterdam University, tell them the story about Prop 19 and CCPR and about, this, legalization did not just happen in 1 year, one proposition. It was actually, we tried many, many times. There was actually a Prop 19 in the 70s. People don't even know.
Yep.
There was your guys' Prop 19. We had CCPR, and then we had Prop 64. So we actually tried 4 times before we actually were able to change the laws and remove criminalization from people using cannabis. And we're still not done, right?
Valerie Corral and Michelle Aldridge. There are so many women whose shoulders we stand on.
Beautiful women, yeah.
And so many young women who are coming up now. And, if you have the chance to be a mentor, do. And Candace, you have been such I can't even tell you the jolt of joy every time I see you at an event and I think, oh my goodness, we are not only each other's witness, but, I see you as well. And the fact that you are still bringing people together and doing this type of education, doing this type of work. I appreciate everything that you and your team have done for so many years. So unseen and unthanked. And I hope everybody in this audience can also help me recognize you, because we wouldn't be here without your hard work. And Southern California, it was so far behind where everything else was, and it was just so much harder to bring people together, and it still is. And the fact that you're now so far beyond Southern California and affecting so many hearts and minds with Friends of the Farm. And I just appreciate all the new friends that I've met today through you. So thank you. Go forth and conquer. And hell yeah, Women's Month. We can do it. You've got to keep on your toes and make it happen.
Well, thank you again.
Likes it or not. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you to all the women. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to all the supporters who lift me up too and lift you up, Dale. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Dale and her team at Oaksterdam that helped make this possible too. To all the wonderful women that were working with me to make this possible. You all are wonderful too. To Winsy and Lindsay who helped me. So thank you all. I hope that you all enjoyed this webinar. We hope that we were able to share some information that will help you become better informed cannabis consumers, and that this information that we shared will help you find relief. We look forward to seeing you again for another episode of the Friends of the Farm lecture series. Stay well, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Bye.
Bye.